The mid-1970s brought to KTIB's airwaves an established reporter from the newspaper field in Murray Dennis. Let's hear her memories on the old AM 630, now AM 640. Dennis, and it's good to be with you today.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, let's start from the beginning. Where are you originally from?
Well, I call Louisiana home, but my husband and I moved a lot before we came here. We moved here from Georgia and South Carolina.
Okay. Now, where did you go to college?
Went to school at Northeast in Monroe and graduated from there with a BA in theater.
Okay. Which, by the way, was the school I went to as well.
Wonderful.
I was there in '92 for the meteorology program. Before you got into radio at KTIB, was radio always an interest of yours growing up?
Oh, no. I hate to say that since it's our 50th anniversary at KTIB, but I really enjoyed communication. I'm a big talker, and so I guess radio I should have looked at that first. I worked on the campus radio station a little bit, but my primary interest was theater and children's theater, and I also put myself through school working for a newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Before you went to KTIB, what kind of jobs did you have?
Well, as I said, I put myself through school with newspaper, and I worked for the Monroe Little Theater as children's theater director up there for several years, and worked for the Alexandria Daily Town Talk and some other newspapers. And the only radio work I'd done before KTIB was at school on the campus radio.
Okay. Well, let me talk about that for a minute, since I've never been involved in newspapers. When you got out of newspapers and started working in radio, was it a difficult transition?
It was a terribly hard transition because in newspaper you can be as wordy as you want to and you can explain it, and you may have noticed I have a tendency to be wordy. And the time element is not you have a space limitation, but not so much a time element. And it was a challenge to learn to limit your stories and get the main idea out and stop talking.
Okay. Well, that'll lead to the next question. How did you first get involved with KTIB?
Kathy Silverberg had been working at the radio station. And I started, when we moved to Thibodaux, I was working with the Daily Comet, the newspaper, and I stopped that for a little while to have twin boys. And Kathy took my job at the radio station, and a few months later, I found out that her position Kathy took my job at the newspaper, and I found out her position at the radio station was open, and so I applied for that and got it. So we kind of traded jobs for a little while.
What year did you start at KTIB?
I think I started there. I worked at KTIB in 76 and 77.
Okay. Was primarily your job just news?
I was news director and covered the parish council and the police, the city council and the police beat, and anything that needed covering.
Okay. Were there any stories in the window that you worked in that seemed to stand out more than others?
No, I remember the sheriff's department always had a lot of activity going on, and it was one of the challenges for me was learning how to do dialogue. That was always interesting. One of the first dialogue sessions I had was with a local politician, and I'm not going to mention his name because people would still remember him. And in one of the commercial breaks, he told me not to ask about a certain issue. And I think the program ended very abruptly that day.
Mm-hmm. Understandable. Well, let's talk about that with dialogue. The name we'll always remember with that is Marie Bergeron. Tell me about working with her.
Oh, Marie was a delight and still is. She and I worked together some. She was out part of the time that I was there, but I really enjoyed working with Marie, and she taught me an awful lot about radio and how to be succinct.
Let's talk about some of those good people you worked with at KTIB. One gentleman who we all know from sports, who I believe was also a first-class engineer, Roy Pugh.
Oh, I enjoyed working with Roy, and his kids and my kids were good friends, and course, working with Marie was fun, and John Rayner. I have great memories of John and Rick Luquette and Kathy Terracina. Now, Kathy Terracina, everybody knows Kathy with the Chamber, but she also put in her time at KTIB.
So I take it your time at KTIB with both the people and the events you had to cover must have been pretty rewarding.
Oh, I loved it. It was my first time doing anything in radio, and I really had a lot of fun. It was a learning experience for me. I remember the first time I did a Mardi Gras parade from the balcony, the KTIB balcony, and I did a Fireman's Fair parade live. It was so much fun. That was a really enjoyable experience, and that was one of those occasions where being wordy kind of helped out.
I know you've been kind of removed from the station for a while. What have you done since then?
Well, I worked for the school board for a while, and I'm retired now and actively working with Thibodeau Playhouse and the Bayou Country Children's Museum as doing volunteer things with them.
Well, Murray Dennis, we really appreciate the time. Is there anything you'd like to say to all the listeners that remember you before we go?
Well, if there are any out there, I just say keep listening to KTIB. I've enjoyed it all those years.
Murray Dennis, another established example of KTIB's dedication to local news and information.